Hello, sir.
Hello.
Sir, in assignment, I have doubts.
Okay. Tell me.
In question number one, exactly in the first part, that is A, I'm not getting exactly what what it is asked in the question.
Okay, let me open the assignment one and clarify to your doubts.
Like the question one is not clear. Like C1 and C2 are mentioned, but it is not mentioned if it is like C1 is only purely A or something of that.
I see, I see. Let me just go through it. Okay, basically 1 and 2, these are two entry and exit points. 1 refers to entry points and 2 refers to exit points. So then it is asked that inlet and outlet concentration are in general C1, CI1 and CI2. So there could be as many as components. So here it is only 2. So CYI is basically concentration of A, it could be concentration of B, and it could be concentration of C at 1, but that means at inlet points. Similarly, concentration of A or concentration of B, or if I add some more components in the system, then those C of those components at 2.2, that means at exit point. So basically what we want is the concentration of A and B at the outlet point. That means given that C A1 and CB1, these are actually given inlet. That is all are in terms of notation. So here you don't have to solve anything. Just use the notations as CA1 and CB1, and similarly CA2 and CB2. So you have to just find out the concentration at the outlet flow due to this mixing vessel. Consider this problem as.
Sir, the in the question, is it given as A and B two soluble components? Means F1 is the flow rate of that feed in which A and B both
Correct,
are there.
correct.
So why it is needed to mix once again in the vessel?
Good
Like is
point.
it
Mhm.
I mean, in first part, no
Mhm.
reaction is occurring. So
Right.
why the mixing is needed?
So yeah, definitely a correct. Good point you have thought about. So it is, I think I have to add or separately, yeah, separately A and B. It is not that in the same, so we have to give feed them separately, because we are
Okay.
going to ultimately mix it. So some components are, so A and B are basically not in the same feed. They has to be in the different feed. So make that corrections. I think it is my fault in this point, in this question, that I have not added. So the purpose is to mix them and see the outlet concentration in the combined flow rate, or basically the. So you have to add A and B in the inlet point separately. Correct. So yeah, that modifications will be there. I will modify the questions after the class, and I will again post it so that whole class remains about knowledgeable about these corrections. Okay, thank you, thank you. Any other
So,
doubts?
sir, if
Okay.
we are adding A and B separately, then will we also have to take a height as a variable?
Oh, that you have to consider. That is explicitly it is not mentioned, but since these are mixing vessel tank, so there is always a liquid height that has to be there. So think about it, and accordingly, you have to draw the information flow diagram. Of course, the height is there, which will be, because F1 and F2 are not equal, and we considered that in. So that's why this question is a little bit kind of, you may look it as incomplete, but if you think that it is incomplete, then make it complete by writing assumptions, writing the correct points which need to be added, so that this sort of questions can be tackled. Many a times saying things will not be explicitly told to you. But one thing can be easily understood, that these are liquid mixed streams that are entering. So height, of course, will be variable or state variable, which we have to consider rather. Okay. Any other points considering the assignment? Okay, so if not, then let us discuss today's content, and what we were. Before that, any question, because now class strength is a little bit more. So any questions over the last week discussions about multiple steady state in non-isothermal CSTR? Okay, if not, then let us continue our discussion. And today again the same topic will be revisited, but also a little bit more thrust will be given on characterizing the steady states. On characterizing the steady states. So this not only restricted to non-isothermal CSTR, right? This can occur in this can occur in other cases. This can occur in other cases. For example, we will show, or we will discuss some more examples today, that in population dynamics equations, or in this kind of any nonlinear, or not any nonlinear, but more of the cases arises when there are multiple differential equations, and which are coupled together, and they are of nonlinear in nature. Sometimes if we want to characterize them, if we want to find out the steady states values, then this sort of equations comes. So first, what I will do, I will give I will elaborate more on this particular aspect, why this has occurred. Because why this has occurred, we have seen in the last week. Now, what do we more extract? Can we get some more insights about this stability of the steady states, and what do we mean by stability of steady states? So a little bit mathematical analysis is there, and along with that, some more examples I will also highlight. So this is basically today's discussion agenda. Okay, so what we were talking about in the last week is that we had derived this sort of graphical analysis, and we found that they cut across the two curve crosses each other depending on the inlet values of the feed temperature or concentration, volumetric flow rate. These are all inlet parameters associated with the streams, and sometimes they may two curves may cross each other at a single point. Sometimes they may cross at three different points. Now, if it crosses at single points, then okay, that is a steady state value, and one can also again characterize that steady state. So today that part will be more or less understood, characterizing the steady states. So this occurrence was more or less clear to us that it may cut 3, it may cut at 1 point. If it cuts at 3 points, then not all the steady states are stable, and we discussed in terms of graphical solutions about just by moving around the curve a little bit, or just in the vicinity of the steady state values, if we want to increase the temperature or decrease the temperature. So graphical analysis was done based on the movement across along the curves, and we found that some steady states are stable, some steady states are unstable. But if we want to operate the system at the unstable steady state point, then we have to design a controller. So today those part will be more or less completely understood to you, that what requires that controller design, what are the parameters that are required, and characterizing the steady state in terms of stability measurement, or whether the steady states are stable or not. So these will be more or less today's discussion point. Okay, so what we are talking is that we got the values in the physically possible range. So what do I mean by physically possible range? It's basically the temperature is lying between 0 and infinite. So we are getting some significantly acceptable or accepted data of temperature, and the conversion is also between 0 and 1. So we are not getting, after solving these two simultaneous equations to get the steady state. So basically this part will be 0, unsteady term will be 0, and we will solve the equations together. So these two equations together we will solve, and we can get this sort of 3 different points, and the values are basically in the physically significant range. So in that physically significant range, so we might argue that all are accepted, right? All are accepted. But simply just saying that they occur in the physically possible range, that means we have to accept all the values, all the steady state values, and we can operate our system at any of the steady state. That is not the case. So that's why the further step is required to investigate whether those steady state that has really occurred in the physically possible range, are they can we accept them? Can we accept all of them? That means, can we operate our system at all those points? So that is basically the questions. So what do we further go in terms of saying that whether it is a stable or not, even if it has occurred in the physically significant range, whether it is stable or not. So what typically happens in this sort of unsteady because we start writing from the unsteady state equations, and keeping the accumulations term or transient term, and then we try to integrate, right? We try to integrate, and based on some initial conditions. So at some initial conditions, so at t initial and x initials, which is basically 0. So these based on these two, we try to start the solving the integration equations, and then we see the profile of temperature and x, the conversion. So the question is that if we start from some initial conditions, so whether it reaches to that steady state point, or whether it reaches to some other steady state point. So these we do not know. That we have to see that if we start from some initial conditions, at what point it will go. But since we have found out that these two equations together results in 3 different steady state, that means given a chance, or given a situations at starting point, that means at the startup of that system, that means at the initial conditions at t equal to 0, if we have some temperature and x, then if we start from there, it should ultimately reach to that one of the steady state eventually. But does it happen so? So that is question 1 that we are asking. Similar, or we are also asking that if we start the reactor just nearby locations of the steady state, suppose we are just starting it at from very nearby location of the steady state, so will it reach to that steady state value, or let's say we just start it exactly at the steady state point, then whether it will stay in that steady state point for long enough time. If little bit variations, this is very important, follow me. If little bit variations across that steady state point, will it be able to restore it back, or will it get back to that again, that steady state point? So that is the question. So what we are asking, or what we are characterizing, that there could be two cases. One is that given some initial conditions, whether the ultimately the temperature and convergence reaches to that steady state. That means you go on integrating, and at t equals to infinite, or at long enough time, you want to see whether it has reached to that steady state or not. That is that one case. Or it could be also that suppose you start the reactor at the exactly at the steady state point, or very nearby steady state point, and whether it reaches to that steady state point, or whether it further shifts away from the steady state point. So these are the queries that we are also having it with us. So in order to do that, what we have to do, we have to first write down the transient equations. We have to first write down the full transient equations. That means keeping out the time variation term, and then we will take up some mathematical approach. We will take up some mathematical approach. So this paragraph that I was talking, it is basically written here. You can go through it, and then what we are thinking, that we have to do some linearizations. But before that, directly not jumping into this sort of mathematical analysis, because for the sake of mathematical analysis, you can definitely go through it and you will understand that. But before that, why linearization is required, and little bit concept of about the linearization of nonlinear ODEs. I was thinking that I will discuss on that part little bit. Okay. So I'll come again revisit to this part. So let us go to this particular topic, and some analysis has been carried out here. So this is basically some class notes, and it says that if you have a nonlinear differential equations, right? So basically dx dt, it is a function of x and u, function of xt and ut. Okay, so it could be some mathematical functions, and what we are calling is that at x bar and u bar, that means it is basically a stable point, or not stable, should not use the word stable point. It is a at some value of x and some value of u bar or u, which we are referring as x bar and u bar, the function value goes to 0. That means this unsteady, or this that means these 2 points are basically steady point, steady state point, which we are also calling as equilibrium point. That this definition will remain just clear to you now, that why we are calling it also as an equilibrium point. Because so for this sort of any differential equations, so this x dot t, and which is a function of xt and ut, if we start it integrating, we need some initial conditions, right? So there should be x at t equal to 0, this value, and u at t equal to 0. This has to be specified. Now, what if we start them at x bar and u bar? Right, the initial condition is basically the steady state point values. So what we expect, that they will remain at that point. So that means it will not change. So because that's a steady state point, no derivative, so it will not further evolve. So that means these steady state point are also equilibrium point. That means there is no change. So whatever the t, it greater than equals to t0. So all value of t is starting from initial point, the resulting solutions will be just satisfying those x bar and u bar, and it will remain staying there because the derivative part is 0. So that is also that is why it is also called a equilibrium point. So sometime you will also find this term, that steady state point or equilibrium point. Now there is a deviation variable, that concepts we are introducing. So why this concept is introduced? So this same concept will be again used here. So some small perturbation and some small deviations. So what we are thinking, that let's say we just didn't exactly operated the system, or at x bar and u bar. So we just start the system at slightly different, keeping some slight difference from x bar, and also simultaneously from u bar. right? So if we start it exactly at that point, then state of the system will remain fixed. It will not change for all t. It will remain fixed. But what if that if we start a little bit away from x bar and also from u bar? So basically, and that effect we want to see, right? So we as if we are causing some disturbance, as if we are causing some slight variations or change around the steady point, which you can also connect to the to our case where if we just slightly vary the temperature, then we want to see that what happens at that different steady point. So I think some three different card, let's say just for sake of understanding. So these 3 points, so which you can basically analyze. So we start at slightly different points. So these are axes. So some here or some here. So slightly different point, we are just starting it and we want to see whether that expands or that again decays with or fall back again at the steady point. So we introduce a deviation variable, which is also a function of t, because that whether it grows with time or whether it decays with time, that we want to see. So this is basically a deviation variable, which we are writing as small delta x or delta u. And since our differential equation was in this form, so what we are doing, we are just taking a derivative or not derivative. We are just we are just taking a derivative of this delta x t and delta ut and just substituting the value of xt, because xt is basically x bar plus delta x. So we are just again writing this. And then what we are doing that some Taylor series expansions we are writing. So about this point, right? About this x bar or about this u bar. So knowing in the fact that this delta x and delta u, these are very, very small. So in that case, we can write as a Taylor series expansion or up to the just the first order term. All the higher order terms we basically neglect because they will be even smaller. So this can be again, that's why I write it as a first order approximations of Taylor series. And what we find that this is the function value at that equilibrium or point and the first derivative of the functions with respect to the two state variables. So if that functions that was there, which is a function of xt and ut, so functions values at with respect to one's x and one's u with respect to those state variables, and at that steady point we are trying. So this is basically a constant. So this is a constant and this is a constant. So what we have done, we have just defined the deviation variables. We are trying to see whether that deviation variables further expands with respect to time or it falls back and it decreases. So that we want to see. So what we are essentially writing that and this term, which is the function value at that steady point or equilibrium point, it is always 0 because that at that point it is a derivative, there is no derivative and function value automatically goes to 0. So this is constant, so 0. So this ultimately goes to this value. So which is basically the what we are writing, the differential equations, differential equation which we earlier had, it approximately governs the deviation variables with respect to time. So basically the change in deviation variable with respect to time is our, this is the step we have reduced it. So, and that is a linear combination of that delta x and delta y with the constant coefficients associated with it, right? So basically this is what we write. And this type of equations we typically call the Jacobian linearizations. So what are the Jacobians? Jacobians are basically those first derivative or differential with respect to that x and y. So this is just for a single valued functions f. Now if it is f1 and f2, then you can easily think of that you will have a 2 by 2 matrix where there will be del f1 del x, del f1 del u, and del f2. So maybe I write it as f1 with respect to x, and this will be del f1 with respect to u, and this will be del f2 with respect to x, and this will be del f2 with respect to u. And these are all functions values evaluated at x equals to x bar and u equals to u bar. So if there are two functions, since there is only one, so we have just got a one linear equations, right? But if we can have as many as functions values. So in that way we will have the matrix in terms of this thing. So so basically what we are getting that ordinary differential equations which were of nonlinear, and because we want to see the characterizing, or we want to see that what will happen if we operate it, or if we try to evolve the functions just nearby the vicinity of the steady state point, whether it goes to that steady value, or whether it so whether the derivative terms or whether the differential terms with respect to time, whether it further magnifies, whether it further expands, or whether it goes to 0. If it goes to 0, that means we have reached to that particular steady point, or if it not, then it may go to somewhere else. It may continuously go and increasing, or it may, if it encounters a steady state point, then it may again stick to that particular point, but it will deviate from the original steady state point. So that way we will be able to know whether it is a stable or unstable. So this sort of analysis is actually required, because as we said that the three steady point A, B and C, the B point was unstable. From graphical analysis we understood that it is an unstable point, but if we want to operate it on that point, we need to design a controller. So what we'll do, controller will actually effectively controls the deviations, right? So it will control the deviations, the delta x or delta u with respect to time. So this that is why this linearizations is actually required in terms of designing or tuning the parameter of that controller. So if we want to operate it at some unstable steady state point, we need a controller to take some actions. So what actions it will take, that whether the deviations, whatever the deviations has occurred, it will try to act upon them. It will try to work upon it to again restore that expanding term or delta x with derivative term to again to go to that steady point. So this analysis has also an implications that if we want to design a controller, then this linear variations with respect to time of the deviation variable is actually required. Okay, so just keep this in mind, then again some more understanding will be obtained. So again, just for the sake of continuation on that steady exothermic CSTR, let us continue our discussion. So what we have learned that what the mathematical technique we can use to get rid of the nonlinear ODE into a linear combinations of deviation variable, and which is a just ordinary equations, differential equation, linear equations. So in the same way, we have done it with respect to these two terms, and we can see here that both the term has this nonlinear R, because it has the k term, which is a function of temperature, and it has exponential minus e by RT. So what we will do, we will also in this case define a steady state values xs or ts, and then define a steady deviation variables, right? So that is what exactly we have done it here, that we considered a stable state, we consider a steady state solutions, and we want to see that whether it is stable or not by little bit perturbing it. Little bit changing it. So this again the same analysis has been done here, and what we see that these two expressions are now written, and then again as in the previous examples we have seen that we can write the Taylor series expansions. So the similar thing we have done here. So this I would suggest that you do it and practice it on your own. This will give you more clear understanding that what are the different steps are happening. So what we have done that R term so that means here we have both conversions and temperature. That means in the previous examples it was x and u. So with respect to x and with respect to u, we have basically taken or calculated the coefficients. So that means we can write the Jacobian, we can write the 4 terms in that matrix, right? Because we have two functions, one with respect to conversions and one with respect to temperature, and these two are nothing but our state variables or variables that actually characterize the system, right? So these terms, after writing it, we can see that this and here t small x, that means it is nothing but the delta dot x t in the previous example. That means with respect to the deviation variable, what are the so that means it's a linear combinations, just the linear combinations of x and y, and this alpha and beta are nothing but the constant. And what are those constant? It contains the steady state temperature, E, R, T, and other parameters like Ca naught or K or heat transfer coefficient if it is a non-adiabatic. So these will be contained in this alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So one expressions you will get with respect to dx dt, and other we will get with respect to dy dt, because y we have defined as temperature minus temperature at steady state, right? So this alpha, beta, gamma, delta, these are nothing but the coefficients which are constant. So what we get this kind of two simultaneous linear first order differential equations. So now we are going one more step ahead. We are trying to see further characterizing on it whether they are stable or they are unstable. So this we will go on again characterize. So till this part you just hold it, because what I again want to see, we want to take up an examples and we want to see mathematically that what values actually tells you that whether the system will deviate or whether it is an unstable state or whether it is a stable state. Okay, so graphical analysis had showed us some understanding, right? Graphical analysis, we have done it in the previous case, and we have seen that in the previous class, and we have seen that it actually shows some understanding that this does not lead to be a, or this does not guarantee to be a stable point or unstable point. Now let us do one thing. Let us take up this expressions, which is basically a population dynamics functions, and that detail I would not explain you, or rather detail means basically we would not spend much time on saying about what population dynamics, but we just wanted to take up an examples, that means and a case where nonlinear ODE can also be obtained, and that actually appears for population dynamics problem, right? Population dynamics problem. So this not only restricted to this nonlinear ODE and characterizing the steady state for only CSTR example, but several other branches across science and engineering, this sort of situations appear. So let's say this is that equations, right? Single value, a single variable du dt, which is a function of u into 1 minus u. Now it can easily be obtained, like what are the two different steady state point? One is 0 and one is 1, right? Just by make it 0 and we can easily find out. But what happens, or can we say whether which one is a steady state point, stable point, and which one is unstable point? So in order to do that, particularly in order to comment on that, whether which steady state point actually is stable. So from mathematical perspective, if we want to do, then we have to take the help of this what is called linearization technique, right? So in the linearization technique, this has also done some graphical analysis, which you can go through here, which I will not explain. But from in terms of mathematical analysis, what we'll do the linearizations. So again, if we do the linearizations, then these expressions based on some initial value, we call it as u0. And then at the point, steady point, f will be vanishing. So we define a perturbation variable, which is a measure of the deviation of the solutions from the specific steady state. This is very important, the definition of it written. And then what we do, just single valued functions, and we take up a Taylor series expansion. So this from this onwards, we basically omit the term, we ignore them, and we this also is 0. So basically dx dt is nothing but the df du, that means the f dash, the first derivative at the steady state point, into x, right? So this has the solutions of this form, which you can easily write. Now as you can see that this is a positive term, or this is a initial conditions. Now what essentially will be achieved in terms of the conclusions is that if as the t increases, the perturbations, which is nothing but the x of t, that will decrease if this value is basically less than 0, right? That means it will try to take us, so that means dx dt is negative, so we can conclude that x will so as time increases, x decreases. That means as time increases, x will lower down. That means it will further fall back. The deviations, the differences will come down and close to be 0. It will decrease. But if this slope increases, or not the slope, yeah, the value of the slope at the steady point, if it is more greater than 0, then it will further grows in size, the deviation variability expands, and if it is exactly 0, then it will remain at the initial value. That means it will not change further, and if it happens to be one of the steady state, then it will remain at that steady state point. So that is why the question now, if there are two steady points that are we have obtained here, that one is 0 and one is 1. So just we want to see, we want to characterize them. So just what we have done, we have just done some mathematical this formulation, this calculations, and we have found that the point 0, which is the one of the steady state, which is unstable, and 1, which is a stable. So this sort of analysis is obtained only after if you have linearized it, but it has been shown for a single valued functions. So if there are two, for example in CSTR problem, then we have to do in the same way. Or there are other ways also, which I will also discuss now, but this is the standard way of doing it. So you may encounter this sort of applications in other branch of science or engineering, or I have to also see that what some more examples can be provided to you apart from the nonlinear non-isothermal CSTR. So just see here what exactly is happening. So we have also obtained a similar thing is like this, and we can just take up, or we can just do the analysis like this, and we can see that which steady state points are unstable or which steady state points are stable. So for the single valued, it is easy, but for if there are two or three simultaneous ODE, linear ODE, then a matrix technique or the eigenvalue calculations are much more efficient. So what is that eigenvalue calculations? Is basically these two expressions can be, as we know, that can be reduced to a single second order differential equation. So basically just take a derivative and substitute the dx dt and dy dt like from these expressions. So these only expressions will give you this sort of combined expressions, and the general solutions are like this: c1 and e power lambda t by tau, and c2 e to power lambda t minus lambda t by tau. So c1, c2 are in constant, which will be you will be getting from the initial conditions, right? Initial conditions. So these eigenvalues are of these equations can also be obtained from the matrix analysis. If we just take out the matrix, the coefficients, that means alpha, beta, gamma, delta are what? These are nothing but the derivative, right? These are nothing but the derivative and calculated at the steady state point. That means the one I was writing here, that del f del x, yeah, so this basically the matrix. So if we just calculate the eigenvalues of this matrix, and whether the eigenvalues are a real part or real number or imaginary number, that actually tells you that it will and the sign, the negative sign, if it is a real negative value, then that means that it will decrease, the deviation variable will try to decrease with respect to time. That means that steady state point based on which you have linearized the equation, or based on which you have done that deviation variable analysis, that steady state point will be called as stable steady state point. So this lambda, the sign of lambda is very important, right? So it requires that real part, or that means it can be real number or imaginary, but if it is a imaginary, then real part has to be negative. That has to be negative. So based on these three different cases, we can obtain this sort of general understanding of this what is called behavior. So what are written here is that if lambda is real, the solution will return to xs. That means the deviation variable will further fall back and it will decrease. Dx dt will gradually fall down and it will be 0, and then x will remain stick to that again xs, the steady state point. So that happens when lambda is less than 0, but it will not. That means there will be exponential growth if lambda is greater than 0. And you can also correlate it with respect to, or you can connect this point again to this here, that the function's values evaluated at this point. So here it is only single valued, so that's why this just you are getting only 1. So you can think of that 2 by 2 matrix. So those coefficients are nothing but the derivative evaluated at the steady state point. So the sign or the magnitude. So if it is a 1 by 1 matrix, then for this case it is just the single point. So we can easily say that whether it is less than 0 or greater than 0. But if it is a 2 by 2 matrix, then how will we represent that matrix? So we are essentially calculating the eigenvalue, and that actually characterizes, or that actually tells us about the behavior of the system. That means the eigenvalue has a significance about that. It tells us whether that system will how the system will behave. And when we say the how the system will behave, that means the coefficients associated with that functions that evaluated at the steady state point, which form the Jacobian matrix, right? So basically an output, or basically a response of that Jacobian matrix is obtained best by the values of lambda. And if it is real part, if it is a real number, then it has to be less than 0, and then it will come to the steady state point. So this is the case when lambda is less than 0, and this is the case when lambda is greater than 0, the exponential growth, right? So this is the case when lambda is less than 0. This is the case when lambda is greater than 0. Then but if A is complex, then A refers to this basically matrix, right? So if eigenvalues are complex, then it can exhibit either damped oscillations or growing oscillations, depending on the value of the real part of that eigenvalue, whether it is negative or positive. So that is why we can see that importance or calculations based on this eigenvalues of the matrix. So basically the stability of the steady states are analyzed like this. It not only has the graphical understanding, but sometimes it may be efficient to do it mathematically, because the graphs may not be the nonlinear equations or nonlinear ODE after linearizing it may not be no, not after linearizing, just by looking at the nature of the graph, we may not be able to plot it graphically as we had done it here. So based on this, we have done R term and G term, but no, it is not always the case. So sometimes it is more efficient to do it mathematically. So we can easily see that just by checking the value of lambda, that what does it mean, whether it is and based on that we can say that whether it is stable or unstable. So this is very much important. And some more thoughts or some explanations I would call some more important reading. If you can do it on your own, it will be good. So just it has expanded with respect to several of it's called functions and several of state variables. So there will be 1 to n, so n number of state variables characterizing n number of equations, and it is given in terms of matrix. So why this bold letter and are nothing but our matrix form. So the definition of stability and this particular section 2.10, a little bit advanced, but it gives you an idea about the different terms called asymptotically stable or globally asymptotically stable or unstable. So these are different definitions which we get from these 4 different points. This is some reference reading or additional reading. I'm not asking you to that we have to fully, or rather it is just for additional features about this discussions that we were having, but mainly we will restrict us to this characterizing the steady states based on graphical as well as mathematical techniques. And what we have learned is that we can get rid of the nonlinear nature by linearizing them. And why the linearization is required, there are 2-3 implications. One is that if we want to see that the steady state, whether it is a stable steady state or whether it is an unstable steady state, and if we want to carry out our system operations at an unstable steady state point, then the design of controller is very important, and which takes nothing but the value of that deviation variables. So it has to know, the controller has to know how the deviations, the delta x grows with respect to time. That means you can think of that the lambda eigenvalues. So these are basically parameters that needs to be designed, or that needs to be that we need to have with us in order to design the controller. So this is very important, and essentially these are nothing but the value of lambda actually depends on the constants that we had seen here, alpha, beta, gamma, delta. So based on this, we can understand the situations that in fact, if you just globally, if you just picturize or visualize what we had, where we had actually started. We had started that this non-linear, non-isothermal exothermic case and non-isothermal CSTR. So we wanted to show you the application of non-linear algebraic equations. But what we essentially arrived at important concepts in reaction engineering about the operational point of view, that whether we can operate, and what we have learned is the many important features about the different steady state points. Typically we know that some values we will ignore and some values we will omit. We will only take up one values, but it may poses, or it may gives us situations where several of the steady states are equally acceptable, but we have to understand that which steady state we want to accept. And if we really want to comment on which steady states are stable or unstable, apart from graphical technique, we can do some mathematical technique, and for that we need this linearization concept. So that are the learning features, or things that we have learned here. And this chapter or this book is basically based on many of the different advanced mathematical techniques, but this part was more or less relatable to what we were discussing. So till section 2.10, I think you can read. You will be able to relate. Not very complex mathematics are involved, but beautifully written. The analysis part is very beautifully written, and you can see the applications of this. In fact, one of the case it has also given is that application of a linear ODE, and how it is basically all the time it is asymptotically stable and unique. So typically the nonlinear ODE gives us some interesting features which linear ODE cannot. So linear ODE, you will always get more or less get a steady state point, and that will be asymptotically stable. It will not have any unstable points typically. But in case of nonlinear ODE, this can be the case. And one examples, as we have seen here, the CSTR, others are can be designed or can be studied or explored. So the examples that we discussed in the class are applicable to other nonlinear ODEs. So make sure or go through this concept very carefully, and read it and practice it. That is very important. If you do not practice the lines or equations or that we have written here, so it will be difficult for you. So this particular CSTR example, given a values that is available with us, you can go through it. For example, that glycol problem, propylene glycol, that values, CP, temperature, all the data are given. So you may just try it and you may just see and characterize the steady states across. First you will solve it, and then you will do this like lambda values or eigenvalues. So this is just take up this task, or if you or maybe I can give it as an assignment problem. So this is which one do you want? I'll give that as an assignment problem, the glycol questions. Ethylene glycol, I think propylene glycol. Let me open that part maybe. This is the question. In fact, this has also some data. CSTR process startup. Hmm. Let me see. So this particular problem, which in fact I also told in the class, that in the previous class, that this can be given. So I think this problem I will frame and I will give it as an assignment to problem, to not only obtain the steady state values but do this linearization technique and comment on the which steady state points are stable or unstable. So this will give you a broad understanding of the learning that we have made in the class. So this I will give in the form of assignment, second assignment. Sunil, can you keep a note of it? And if I ask you to frame the questions, which we will discuss a priori, so can you do that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will do.
Okay. So students, if you have any questions based on the discussions that we had today. I'm sure you will have many questions. This topic I think it is something new that you have learned, and more detailed analysis or more detailed study we have seen that we can do in this way and learn many things about this course. Soham, any questions? Others, Kumar? Aves Akhtar?
Yes, sir.
Any questions on this topic? So hope you have understood it. All the topic, all the contents that we discussed. So who will ask the question? Snehobandhu?
Yes, sir.
You thought that you said that you will go through the topic in the previous class. So have you gone through it?
Yes, sir. Before that, I've gone.
Any questions, or you have understood it totally?
Like I was searching for like process to read more about it.
Okay, go through it. This is I must reiterate again that it is an important topic which you should learn at this stage. That typically I have seen that this concept of multiple steady states are not very clear to the students. So I think we have invested a good amount of time, and of course there will be one assignment on this. If you do it and if you calculate it on in the form of a problem statement, so it will nothing but benefit you by clearing the concepts and doubts. So not only we have seen the occurrence of steady states, but we have also able to learn how to comment on that steady state, that or which steady state point we should operate our system. So these are the important features that we have learned in this course in connections to applications of different equations, ordinary differential, nonlinear algebraic equations. But of course, these differential equations in the general form has already been going on in the discussion phase. But that's okay. That we cannot just categorically define. Say that this week we will study only nonlinear algebra. Otherwise, that class would be very much mathematical or mathematics class. So anyways, with this slight overlap between different topics will always be there, because ultimately we are seeing examples from different applications of process engineering and reaction engineering. One applications I was also going through it, and probably tomorrow I will bring about it, that not only this reaction engineering case, not only this non-isothermal CSTR, but also if you can think of that a staged column or tray tower, absorption column, right? Absorption column, and at the startup of that absorption tower. So initially it will has to reach, before it reaches to the steady state, right? Before it reaches to the steady state, can we see or can we tell about that how the composition of gas and liquid in the plate by plate will change with time? So that important analysis can also be done. In fact, I was looking at one example apart from this. So I will also highlight that in the tomorrow's class, that so that you will have a broad understanding that it is not only restricted to here, but in chemical engineering, all sorts of unit processes, you will get this sort of analysis. So writing the first unsteady state equations, and then you are making it zero to calculate the steady state, and then commenting on that. So stage tower or absorption tower, tray by tray or plate by plate, you will call not plate, basically sieve tray or bubble cap tray. So across each tray, how the gas and liquid composition change with time. So that unsteady absorption column problem can also fall into the category of this, and we will see the occurrence if the equations are not very much non-linear. In that case, then we will see how we can tackle those sort of equations. Okay, I will highlight that part tomorrow a little bit, and then we will we'll make a transition from this nonlinear algebraic to ordinary differential equation case. That will be tomorrow's discussion. Okay, I'll modify the assignment questions, and I will keep the deadline tomorrow, tomorrow 11:59 p.m. Okay, thank you class. Thank you for your participations.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.